Whoa, 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 whoa.
I'm going for a ride.
You can't be going like that. You haven't even checked the scooter. It looks fine. Yeah, but it may look fine, but you still got to check it, man. Come on.
Okay, let's do it.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to DC Unplugged, and I'm going to be going through one of the most not so talked about and kind of controversial things on the internet. So you should probably always check your e-scooter before you ride, and this is why. Let's roll that intro. Now look, we all look over our scooters and give it a quick look down, and it doesn't look like there's anything wrong, but there's a very high possibility that actually there could be something lurking around in there on your scooter, waiting to let go before you go out for that awesome ride with your friends and family. So it's always just take 5 minutes of your time just before you scoot, and I'm going to show you the first things to check over that are really simple. So let's get straight into it. For today, we're just going to use this Makita here as an example. So first one's first that I always check for, tire pressure. That's going to be able to give us the maximum range, and if you're onto a track, the maximum speed as well. So let's have a look at that first, and I'll show you what I do. So first things first, when I go and look at the scooter, basically grab my thumb and give it a push. If it's hard to push in, chances are tire pressures are pretty good. I do that for both the front and the back. So once you've done that, then let's move on to probably some more bits that you might forget about. So next in line to that, obviously, you've looked at the tire pressure. Beside that is then your brakes. Checking your brakes, actually levers, if they're hydraulic, making sure they're not squishy and they do feel like they're quite solid. If you have cable brakes, making sure that they don't go all the way to your brake lever between here and here, and they're not sitting here before they do something. You do need to have them adjusted out or have them adjusted before you ride, because if, just in case, and I would wish this on no one, a car pulls out in front of you or something happens where you just need an emergency brake on, if your brakes do not work, you're going straight into that parked car or that potential hazard. So always checking brakes. Now if you have hydraulic, I definitely recommend looking at your hydraulic lines all along here, checking around the caliper for any leaks. That's going to give you some signs that something's loose or needs to be looked into before you ride. If you have cable, I would definitely recommend looking over all of this bit here, adjusting what you need to adjust, and making sure your caliper down the bottom isn't got a loose bolt or something like that, and the cable hasn't pulled through that little lever. Now, a lot of people might not think this is too much of an issue, but I would recommend actually making sure all your brake lights and your headlight works. So making sure that there's no flickering or anything like that, because that could potentially show some hazards of maybe some electrical gremlins, as well as just making sure that people know from behind you, if you're with a pack of friends, they can see that you are actually stopping and that they're not going to run up the butt of you, because that does hurt. Headlights for basically if you do get stuck out at night time, you know you're going to turn your lights on and your lights are going to light your way in front of you, and you're not going to potentially run over any sticks, rocks, grass, glass, all sorts of stuff that could potentially really make havoc on what was meant to be a really nice ride. So definitely check your lights. Make sure that they're all good and in working order and they're not moving about the place. If they are moving about the place, give them a quick tighten up before you go, because potentially they could rattle themselves loose, and when you need them, they're hanging off your scooter and dangling down or something like that. So yeah, definitely make sure they're tight and all working properly as they should. Now, the next one's more of basically a visual examination. So you're basically just going to be looking over the whole scooter, checking all your bolts and stuff like that. Nothing's obviously hanging out further than it kind of looks, and if it does look like it's hanging out a little bit more, probably best to check over the whole entire scooter for little Allen keys, and basically going over like your nuts and bolts and bits of suspension and checking everything is in working order and it is tight, because if that comes loose, if it's brake related or suspension related, that could really be a really bad time. So making sure, just going quickly over all of your Allen keys and stuff like that, it'll take you no time at all if you have the tools already there, ready to go. Just make sure that you do actually tighten them up. Next to that, with the whole tightening up things, making sure your folding mechanism is actually up to spec So there shouldn't be much movement. There is meant to be a little bit of movement back and forth, but not a whole bunch. If there is a lot of movement, it probably means it's due for either a service or it just needs to be tightened up in this neck stem. Now, not all neck stems look like this one here that we have behind us. They come in all different shapes and sizes and all sorts of stuff. So definitely making sure, and you maybe even if you want to do it yourself, get hold of the manufacturer and see what you can do to make that tight before you go out for a ride. But definitely make sure that this is tight, because you really don't want your folding mechanism folding while you're riding. That would be completely disastrous and would not be a good time for anyone involved. Now this one shouldn't be, this one should be a no-brainer, but making sure your scooter is actually charged before you go out on a ride is probably a really good idea, as you know, you kind of need to be charged before you go riding. Depending especially how far you're going, that could potentially be a very big thing, because if you're going on a long ride, you're not going to make it home. So yeah, definitely guys, check over your scooters before you go riding, because that could potentially be a very big hazard. Doesn't matter which one it is, but obviously things happen when you ride, like flat tires, glass, metal, it all happens. We've all had it. But yeah, just taking those extra precautions before you ride is always going to make sure that you are going to make it home as safe as possible. Anyway guys, if this has helped you guys out, please definitely go up there and subscribe, and maybe even think about definitely subscribing to the channel guys, because it helps me out and it'll probably help get very useful information like this out to your friends and family, and it could potentially save their life. So always wear a helmet guys, full face. Don't argue with me with that one, trust me, you don't want to go there. I've seen way too many accidents, full face or nothing guys. But anyway, we'll see you all in the next video. Again, if this helped you out, maybe found some things that you didn't even think about even looking, definitely like and subscribe, and we'll see you all in the next video. Until then, we'll see you then. See you.